It started 3 weeks before the party. My sister called on a Tuesday evening around 6:30 while I was making dinner. The kids were at the table doing homework and David was still at the office finishing meetings. "So, Emily's turning 8 next month," she said, her voice bright with excitement. "We're doing a big party at that new event venue downtown. The fancy one with the indoor playground and the catering. You know, the place that just opened near the shopping district." "That sounds amazing," I said, stirring the pasta sauce and checking the timer on the garlic bread. "The kids will love it. They've been asking when Emily's birthday was coming up." There was a pause on the line, a hesitation that lasted just a beat too long. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that." I turned down the heat on the stove, my full attention shifting to the phone. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten with unease. "We're keeping it small this year. Just close family and Emily's school friends. You know how it is with venue capacity and catering minimums." "Okay," I said slowly. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means you and David are obviously invited. But we're not really doing the cousin thing this year. Emily wants it to be more about her actual friends." I gripped the wooden spoon harder. "You're not inviting my kids to their cousin's birthday party. Don't make it sound like that. It's just, Emily's at that age where she wants it to be cooler. Having a bunch of little kids running around doesn't really fit the vibe we're going for." My daughter was 6. My son was 4. They adored their cousin Emily. "They're not a bunch of little kids. They're her cousins. They're family. And you and David are family, which is why you're invited. Look, I'm not trying to be mean. This is just what Emily wants and it's her special day." I took a breath, trying to stay calm. "Have you told them yet?" "Told who?" "My kids. Have you told them they're not invited to their cousin's party?" "I figured you would handle that. You're their mom." I closed my eyes. "I'm not doing this, Sarah. If you don't want my children at the party, then David and I won't be there either." "Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. Mom and Dad will be so disappointed if you don't show up." "Then maybe you should have thought about that before excluding 2 children from a family event." "It's not a family event. It's Emily's birthday party. There's a difference. Not to a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old there isn't." She sighed. The particular sigh that meant she thought I was being unreasonable. "Fine. Do whatever you want. But don't blame me when Mom asks why you're being difficult." She hung up. I told David that night after the kids were in bed. He listened quietly, his jaw getting tighter with each detail. "So we're not going," he said when I finished. "We're not going." "Good." 2 days later my mother called. "Sarah told me you're not coming to Emily's party." "What's this about?" I explained. My mother made sympathetic noises but ultimately sided with my sister. "It's Sarah's choice how to handle her daughter's party. You can't force her to invite everyone." "I'm not forcing anything. I'm choosing not to attend an event where my children are deliberately excluded." "You're making this into a bigger issue than it needs to be. Just come to the party. The kids won't even notice. They'll notice when every other grandchild is there except them." "You're being stubborn." "I'm being a parent." The next 3 weeks were tense. My sister sent a group text to the family chat with party details. I didn't respond. My brother asked if there was drama. I gave him the short version. He said he understood but was still bringing his kids because he didn't want to make waves. The day of the party arrived. It was a Saturday afternoon, sunny and perfect for an outdoor event. David and I took our kids to the aquarium instead, making it a special outing with lunch at their favorite restaurant beforehand. We didn't tell them about the party happening across town. Why hurt them unnecessarily? Why explain that while they were looking at sea turtles, their cousin was celebrating with all the other grandchildren? But someone told them. We were standing in front of the jellyfish exhibit, watching the translucent creatures drift through their illuminated tank, when my daughter tugged my sleeve with her small hand. "Mommy, is Emily's birthday party today?" My heart sank like a stone. I felt David tense beside me, his hand tightening on our son's shoulder. "How did you know about that, sweetie?" "Grandma mentioned it yesterday when she called. She asked if I was excited about the party and what I was going to wear." Of course she did. Of course my mother had assumed we'd worked it out, or hadn't cared that we hadn't. "Sweetie, it's today. Are we going after the aquarium?" I knelt down to her level. "No, honey. We're not going to that party." "Why not?" "How do you explain this to a 6-year-old? How do you tell your child that their aunt didn't think they were important enough to include? Sometimes parties are just for certain people, I said carefully. This one is just for Emily's school friends. But I'm her cousin. We're family. I know, baby. Her eyes filled with tears. Doesn't Aunt Sarah like us? My son, picking up on his sister's distress, started crying too. David picked him up, his expression dark. Let's go home, he said quietly. The drive home was silent except for the occasional sniffle from the back seat. When we got home, I settled the kids with a movie and their favorite snacks. David disappeared into his office. An hour later, his phone rang. Then mine. Then his again. I walked to the office. David was at his desk, looking at his phone with an expression I'd seen before. The one that meant someone had made a very serious mistake in their business dealings with him. What's going on? He held up his phone. 15 missed calls. 3 from my sister. 4 from my mother. The rest from my brother and various family members. I made a call, he said simply. What kind of call? The kind that clarifies certain business relationships. I sat down slowly. David. What did you do? He turned his laptop toward me. On the screen was an email chain. I recognized the header. Morrison Property Development. My brother-in-law's company. Your sister's husband has been trying to secure a contract with Centennial Group for 6 months. Big commercial development project. It would basically set their company up for the next 5 years. I knew this. My sister had mentioned it multiple times. How this deal would change everything for them, how they'd finally be able to afford the house they wanted and the private school for Emily. What does that have to do with anything? David looked at me steadily. I'm the majority shareholder of Centennial Group. I have been for 3 years. My mouth fell open. What? It's under a different corporate structure. Most people don't make the connection between David Chin and the Centennial portfolio companies. I prefer it that way. You never told me. You never asked about my investment holdings. And frankly, it's boring conversation. But the point is, your brother-in-law has been negotiating with my acquisitions team for months. They were going to present the final contract to me next week for approval. We're going to? I called the team an hour ago. Told them to kill the deal. I stared at him. You killed a multi-million-dollar contract because Sarah didn't invite our kids to a birthday party? No. I killed a multi-million-dollar contract because Sarah told our children they weren't important enough. There's a difference. My phone buzzed. A text from my sister. Why is David torpedoing Mark's deal? What the hell is going on? Then my mother. Your husband is destroying your sister's family financially over a party invitation? Call me now. Then my brother. Dude, this is insane. Call off your husband. David's phone kept buzzing. He declined every call. They don't know it's you, I said slowly. They don't know you control Centennial. They do now. I told my team to inform Mark's company exactly why the deal was being terminated, that the chairman personally declined to move forward with a partner who demonstrates poor values regarding family. David. They made our children cry. They told them they weren't important. That they weren't worthy of being included. His voice was calm, but I could hear the steel underneath. I won't do business with people who treat my family that way. Neither will any company I control. My phone rang. Sir. I answered. What the hell is your husband doing? She screamed. Mark just got a call from Centennial Group saying the deal is dead because of family values concerns and that the decision came directly from the chairman. Do you know what this means for us? I know exactly what it means. This is insane. Over a birthday party? You're going to destroy our financial stability because Emily didn't want a bunch of toddlers at her party. They're not toddlers. They're your niece and nephew. They're 6 and 4 years old, and they cried today because they couldn't understand why their aunt doesn't think they're important enough. This is not proportional. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost revenue. And you're talking about 2 children who were deliberately excluded from a family event. Tell me which one matters more. I cannot believe you're being this petty. I'm not being petty. My husband is making a business decision. He doesn't want to partner with people who demonstrate cruelty to children. It's actually a pretty reasonable position. You planned this. You knew he could do this and you used it as leverage. I had no idea David controlled Centennial until an hour ago. Apparently he likes to keep his business investments quiet. But yes, he did this deliberately. And honestly, I'm not sorry. Mom is furious. Dad is furious. Everyone thinks you've lost your mind. Everyone was fine with you telling two children they weren't important enough. So forgive me if I don't particularly care what everyone thinks. You're going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not standing up for my kids sooner. She hung up. Over the next 2 days the family group chat exploded. My parents demanded we fix this. My brother tried to mediate. Various aunts and uncles weighed in with their opinions on proportional responses and family unity. David ignored all of it. He was in back-to-back meetings restructuring some portfolio companies. When he had free time he played with the kids. On Monday evening, Sarah showed up at our door. No Mark, no Emily. Just her looking exhausted. Can we talk? I let her in. We sat in the living room. She looked around like she was seeing it for the first time. The family photos on the wall, the kids' artwork on the fridge, the toy bin in the corner. I didn't realize David was that successful, she said finally. Does it matter? It matters that I underestimated the consequences. That's not an apology. She was quiet for a long moment. I was wrong. Not because of the money. I was wrong before that. She looked up, eyes red. I told Mark that Emily didn't want little kids at her party. But that wasn't true. Emily never said that. I said it. Why? Because I was jealous. Your kids are adorable. Everyone always comments on how sweet they are, how well behaved. And Emily's been going through a difficult phase. Tantrums, attitude problems. I felt like everyone was always comparing them and mine was coming up short. So you excluded them. I thought it would be easier. One event where Emily could shine without comparison. But I didn't think about what it would do to them. I didn't think about how they'd feel. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm genuinely sorry. Not because your husband has financial power. Because I hurt two children who didn't deserve it. I didn't respond immediately. This was more honesty than Sarah had offered in years. You need to apologize to them. Not to me. To them. I know. I will. If you'll let me. That's up to them. She nodded. And the business deal? That's up to David. But I'll tell you right now, he doesn't change his mind easily once someone crosses a line with our family. I understand. She left quietly. David didn't reinstate the deal. He explained to me later that it wasn't about punishment. It was about principle. He didn't build relationships with people who demonstrated that kind of judgment. There were other contractors, other development companies. Sarah did apologize to the kids. She brought Emily over and they did it together. Emily gave them handmade cards inviting them to a special do-over party. Just cousins. My kids forgave her immediately the way children do. The relationship between Sarah and me is still healing. It's been 4 months. We're cordial now, friendly at family gatherings. But there's a distance that wasn't there before. Mark's company survived. They found other projects, smaller ones. They're fine if not thriving the way they'd hoped. My parents eventually came around. Dad said he understood David's position, even if he wished it had been handled differently. Mom still thinks the whole thing was an overreaction, but she stopped saying so at family dinners. The kids don't remember most of it. They had their cousin party. They got cake and presents and time with Emily. That's what mattered to them. But I remember. I remember the tears in the car. The confusion on their faces when they couldn't understand why they were excluded. And I'm grateful I married a man who, when faced with that choice, chose our children's dignity over business relationships every single time. Some people think David overreacted, that destroying a business deal over a party invitation was extreme. But those people didn't see our daughter's face when she asked if her aunt didn't like her anymore. They didn't hear our son crying in the back seat. And they don't understand that sometimes the most important thing you can teach your children is that they matter. That their feelings are valid. That when someone treats them as less than, there are consequences. David taught them that lesson. And honestly, it's the most valuable thing he's ever done for them. My daughter Maya adjusted her new hearing aid at the dinner table, her small fingers careful around the delicate device. She was 6 years old and still learning to navigate the world with her recent diagnosis. The audiologist had fitted it just 3 weeks ago and she was doing remarkably well with the adjustment. "What is that thing on her ear?" my sister Jennifer asked loudly, pointing across the table. "It looks like some kind of robot attachment." Maya's hand froze halfway to her water glass. My husband, David, tensed beside me, but I placed a gentle hand on his arm. "It's a hearing aid," I said quietly. "Maya has moderate hearing loss." "A hearing aid?" Jennifer laughed, looking around at our parents, our brother Tom and his wife, Catherine. "At 6 years old? Well, that's unfortunate," my mother said. "Have you considered less visible options?" "This is the most effective option for her development," I explained. "Development," my father repeated. "Is she going to need special accommodations?" "She's in a regular classroom," I said. "More equipment," Jennifer sighed. "This is what happens when you wait until your mid-30s to have children." Maya's face crumpled slightly. She understood more than they thought. The hearing aid amplified their cruel words perfectly. "That's enough," David said, his fork clattering against his plate. "Oh, don't be so sensitive," my father interjected. "Jennifer's just concerned. We all are. These things affect the whole family." "How exactly does Maya's hearing aid affect you?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "Well, there's the social aspect," my mother said delicately. "People notice. They ask questions. Your sister's children go to Westbrook Academy. They have friends whose parents know our family. It reflects on all of us." I looked at my niece and nephew, 12-year-old Sophie and 10-year-old Nathan, who were studying their plates in uncomfortable silence. Both attended the prestigious Westbrook Academy, where tuition ran $45,000 per year per child. "It's just a joke, Claire," my father added when I didn't respond. "Lighten up. You've always been too sensitive." Maya's eyes were filling with tears. She'd been so excited to come to family dinner, to show everyone her new device. "Maybe this is why Robot Girl doesn't talk much," Jennifer said to her wine glass. "The equipment doesn't work properly." David stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. The sound silenced the table. He walked calmly to the front door and opened it, standing beside it without saying a word. My father laughed nervously. "David, what are you doing?" David simply gestured toward the open door, his expression completely neutral. "Are you seriously asking us to leave?" Jennifer demanded, her voice rising. "Over a joke? This is ridiculous." "Out," David said quietly. It was the only word he spoke. I gathered Maya into my arms. She buried her face against my shoulder. "This is absurd," my mother protested, reaching for her purse. "We're your family." David remained by the door, silent. They left in a flutter of indignation, my father muttering about disrespect, Jennifer shooting wounded looks over her shoulder. My mother paused at the threshold. "You'll regret this," she said. When the door closed behind them, the house felt instantly peaceful. Maya lifted her head from my shoulder. "Are they mad at me?" she asked, her voice small. "No, sweetheart," I said, smoothing her hair. "They're wrong and they're going to learn that." David sat back down beside us, his hand finding mine. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know you wanted to handle it your way." "You did exactly right," I told him. That night, after Maya fell asleep, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The spreadsheet I'd been maintaining for 6 years glowed on the screen. A detailed record of every payment, every transfer, every bill I'd quietly covered for my family. Westbrook Academy tuition for Sophie and Nathan. $90,000 annually, paid through an educational trust I'd established. My parents' country club membership. $18,000 annually. My father's luxury car lease. $1,400 monthly. My mother's preferred specialists, the ones outside her insurance network. Approximately $3,200 monthly. Tom's business loan, the one that kept his struggling consulting firm afloat. $5,000 monthly. The company I'd founded, a medical device manufacturer specializing in audiology equipment, had gone public 2 years ago. The IPO had valued it at $1.8 billion. My shares alone were worth approximately $400 million. I'd kept this information private, living modestly, driving a 7-year-old sedan, wearing department store clothes. I'd wanted my family to value me for who I was, not what I could provide. But they'd never valued me at all. I'd been the backup plan, the responsible one, the person who quietly fixed problems while they took credit for success and mocked my perceived failures. I opened my banking portal and began canceling automated payments. Each click felt like cutting a thread that had been strangling me for years. The next morning, my phone began ringing at 6:45. I was making Maya breakfast while she practiced identifying sounds with her hearing aid. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. 3 minutes later Tom called. Then my mother. Then my father. At 7:30 my mother's text arrived. Westbrook Academy called. They say the trust fund payments have been suspended. There must be a banking error. I responded, no error. I've withdrawn all education funding. My phone exploded with calls. I silenced it and drove Maya to school, watching her run toward her classroom. Her teacher waved through the window. By the time I returned home, there were 17 missed calls and 34 text messages. I read through them systematically. Jennifer, you can't do this. Sophie and Nathan's education isn't a game. My father, this is childish. We can discuss it like adults. Tom, my business account shows a failed transfer. We need to talk. I called Jennifer back first. She answered on the first ring. What the hell are you doing? She demanded. Westbrook just said Sophie and Nathan's tuition hasn't been paid. I've canceled the educational trust, I said calmly. The one I established 6 years ago. What trust? The trust funded by my company, Audi Tech Solutions. We manufacture hearing aids. We went public 2 years ago. Silence stretched long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. You don't have a company, Jennifer finally said. I'm the founder and CEO. We went public 2 years ago. The Wall Street Journal covered it. This is insane, she whispered. The trust helped your children access quality education. But last night you mocked my daughter's disability, called her robot girl. So I've reassessed my support. It was a joke, Jennifer said desperately. You know I didn't mean anything by it. Actually, I don't know that. What I know is that you humiliated a 6-year-old child at a family dinner. My family's financial situation has changed accordingly. Claire, please. Sophie and Nathan's education can be funded by their parents, I interrupted gently. You and your husband both work. You have options. Public schools, scholarship applications, the same options you probably assumed I had when you were mocking my daughter's medical device. I ended the call and immediately dialed the country club's billing department. This is Claire Morrison. I need to cancel the family membership under the Henderson account. The representative pulled up the account. Mrs. Morrison, you're listed as the payment guarantor. Are you aware this will affect 4 family members' access? I'm aware. Please proceed with immediate cancellation. My father called 30 seconds after I hung up. What is happening? He demanded without preamble. Your mother just received a call from the club. They're saying our membership has been canceled. And her doctor's office is asking for a new payment method. I've canceled all the recurring payments I've been making on your behalf, I explained. The country club membership, Mom's out-of-network specialists, your car lease, Tom's business support. All of it. You've been making payments? His confusion was genuine. What are you talking about? Dad, where did you think the money was coming from? Your insurance doesn't cover Mom's preferred oncologist. Your portfolio took major losses in 2020. Tom's consulting business operates at a deficit. I've been covering approximately $18,000 monthly in family expenses for the past 6 years. That's impossible, he said flatly. You don't have that kind of money. I have considerably more than that kind of money. I built a medical device company that revolutionized affordable hearing aid technology. We have contracts with 16 countries and supply chain partnerships with every major audiology clinic in North America. Last quarter's revenue was $230 million. I could hear him breathing, processing information that didn't fit his understanding of his disappointing daughter, the one who had never quite lived up to expectations. Why would you cancel our support over a simple misunderstanding? He finally asked. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Jennifer deliberately mocked Maya's hearing aid. You told me to lighten up when I objected. Mom suggested we hide Maya's medical device because it might embarrass the family socially. This wasn't an accident of poor phrasing. This was your collective decision to treat my child as a shameful burden. We didn't mean it that way, he protested weakly. How did you mean it then? Explain to me the kind interpretation of calling a disabled child robot girl at a family dinner. He had no answer. The Westbrook tuition bills will arrive in 10 days, I continued. $90,000 for both children. The country club will bill Mom's account directly starting next month. Your car lease payment is due in 3 weeks. Tom's business loan installment is scheduled for the 15th. These are all your responsibilities now. Claire, be reasonable. We can't afford all of that. Then you'll need to make choices. The same choices you assumed I was making while raising a child with medical needs. Downsize your lifestyle. Use in-network doctors. Drive a more modest car. Explore public school options. These are all perfectly reasonable solutions you'd probably recommend to me. My mother grabbed the phone. Sweetheart, please. We love you and Maya. Last night was unfortunate, but we're family. Family doesn't mock a child's disability, I said quietly. Family doesn't suggest hiding medical equipment out of social embarrassment. Family doesn't assume financial struggles while benefiting from hidden support. We didn't know you were helping us financially, she said desperately. You never asked. You never wondered how a single mother with a medically complex child seemed so calm about bills. You built a narrative about my failures and stopped seeing the reality in front of you. Tom called as soon as I disconnected. His voice was panicked. Claire, my business account is overdrawn. The loan payment didn't transfer. What's going on? I've stopped covering your business loan, I said simply. What business loan? I never took a loan from you. You took one from First National Bank 6 years ago, when your consulting firm was failing and you were about to lose everything. I've been making the monthly payments since then. $5,000 a month for 72 months. That's $360,000 total, by the way. You never questioned why the bank stopped sending payment reminders. Oh my God, he breathed. I thought the bank had some kind of grace period program. The program was me. It's ending now. Why? Because of Jennifer's stupid comment last night. Because all of you decided that my daughter's medical device was an appropriate target for mockery. Because when I objected, Dad told me to lighten up. Because Mom suggested we make Maya's hearing aid less visible to protect the family's social standing. Because not one of you considered how your words affected a 6-year-old child. We'll apologize, Tom said quickly. We'll make it right. Apologies don't undo the damage. Maya cried herself to sleep last night. She asked me if she was broken, if her hearing aid made her less lovable. Those are questions no child should have to ask because their family mocked them at dinner. I ended the call and turned off my phone completely. The next few days brought a cascade of consequences. Jennifer withdrew Sophie and Nathan from Westbrook Academy and enrolled them in the local public school. My parents canceled their country club membership and started seeing in-network doctors. Tom's consulting business officially filed for bankruptcy protection, forcing him to take a corporate position he'd previously considered beneath him. My father sold his luxury car and bought a used sedan. My mother joined a regular gym instead of her private Pilates studio. The family group chat, once full of updates about vacations and social events, went completely silent. 2 weeks after the dinner, my mother showed up at my door. I let her in. I need to understand, she said. Why you never told us about your success. Would it have changed how you treated me? I asked. She considered this honestly. Probably. Yes. That's why I didn't tell you. I wanted you to value me as a person, not as a resource. We did value you, she protested. Name one time. She couldn't. You celebrated Jennifer's wedding. Tom's promotion. But when I finished my MBA, you said it was nice. When I founded my company, you asked when I'd get a real job. We were concerned, she said weakly. You were disappointed. And I accepted that. I built my company anyway. I became successful beyond anything you imagined. And I used that success to help you because I believe that's what family does. And we ruined it, my mother said, tears starting. By being cruel to a child. By showing me that no amount of help would earn genuine respect. That you'd mock my daughter's disability while cashing checks funded by the technology that helps her. My mother left without asking for the financial support to be restored. That surprised me. A month later, Maya came home excited about an art project. She'd drawn our family, me, David, and herself. No grandparents. No aunt or uncle. No cousins. Is this our family? I asked. Yes, she said confidently. The people who love me. She adjusted beautifully to her hearing aid. Her teachers reported significant improvement. She made friends who thought her hearing aid was cool. She was thriving without the weight of family judgment. And so was I. The money I'd been spending on my family, I redirected to a foundation supporting children with hearing loss. Scholarships for hearing aids, research grants, summer camps where kids with hearing devices could be themselves. My family's consequences continued. They downsized, adjusted, learned to manage with less. They learned what I'd been doing for years while they mocked my perceived failures. And Maya learned something more important. That her worth wasn't determined by people too small to see it. That her hearing aid wasn't a flaw to hide but a tool that helped her experience the world. That family means people who celebrate you, not people who tolerate you while benefiting from your success. The Henderson family image survived their financial adjustments. They just survived without my invisible support holding them up while they held me down. The video call connected at exactly 6:47 p.m. on a Tuesday evening. My mother's face filled the screen, her expression already set in that particular way that meant she'd made a decision and expected compliance. "We need to discuss Thanksgiving arrangements," she announced without preamble. I was in my home office, still in my work clothes minus the blazer. My 7-year-old daughter, Maya, was doing homework at the kitchen table visible behind me. "Okay, what's the plan this year? Your father and I are hosting at the house as usual. 25 guests confirmed." Mom adjusted her reading glasses. "But here's the thing, we're having some very important people this year. The Hendersons are coming. You know, Thomas Henderson from Henderson Capital? And the Montgomerys. Patricia Montgomery sits on 3 Fortune 500 boards." "That sounds nice," I said neutrally, already sensing where this was heading. Mom leaned closer to her camera. "So we need everything to be absolutely perfect. Sophisticated. Ugh. You understand what I'm saying?" "Not really." She sighed with exaggerated patience. "Leave your daughter home. Rich people are coming to Thanksgiving. We can't have a child running around making noise and disrupting conversations about business and investments. These connections are crucial for your brother's career." I felt my jaw tighten but kept my voice level. "You want me to leave Maya at home on Thanksgiving?" "Exactly. I knew you'd understand. Maybe get a babysitter? Or that friend of yours. The single one, maybe she's not doing anything." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "The point is, this dinner is for networking. Very high-level people. A 7-year-old doesn't fit the atmosphere we're creating." Through the screen I could see my father nodding in the background. My brother Marcus appeared behind Mom's shoulder. "It's really for the best, sis. These are serious people. Last thing we need is kid drama." "Everyone agrees this makes the most sense," Mom continued. "Your sister already arranged care for her boys. She understands how important this is." I glanced back at Maya, bent over her math workbook, completely unaware that her grandmother was uninviting her from a family holiday. Something cold settled in my chest. "Okay," I said simply. Mom blinked, clearly having expected more resistance. Oh, good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. Dinner's at 3 o'clock sharp. Dress code is cocktail attire. And please try to contribute to the conversations. Thomas Henderson is very interested in emerging markets. I'll see what I can do." "Perfect. I'll send you the menu tomorrow. We're doing a 12-course progression." She smiled brightly. "This is going to be such an elegant affair. Exactly the kind of impression we want to make." The call ended. I sat very still for a long moment, then got up and joined Maya at the kitchen table. "Was that Grandma?" she asked without looking up from her homework. "Yeah, baby. Are we going to their house for Thanksgiving?" I smoothed her hair back. "How would you feel about having our own special Thanksgiving this year? Just you and me. We could do whatever you want." Maya's eyes lit up. "Really? Could we have pizza instead of turkey?" "Absolutely. And watch movies all day? Every single one you want." She hugged me tight. "That sounds better than Grandma's boring dinners anyway." I kissed the top of her head, thinking about exactly how boring my mother was about to find her elegant affair. The next 3 weeks passed normally. Mom sent daily updates about the menu, the flower arrangements, the imported wines. My brother Marcus called twice to thank me for being cool about the kid thing, and to practice his talking points about cryptocurrency investments. My sister Jennifer sent a text, "Mom's vision, not mine, but you get it." I responded to everything politely. Confirmed my attendance. Asked if I should bring wine. Mentioned I was looking forward to meeting the Hendersons and Montgomerys. What I didn't mention was the other thing happening that week. My company's publicity team had been planning the announcement for 6 months. The timing was carefully calculated. The day before Thanksgiving, when the news cycle was slow and business features would get maximum attention. My head of communications, David, had argued for waiting until January, but I'd insisted on November. The markets are going to react, he'd warned during our final strategy session. That's fine, I'd told him. Let them react. On Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, the press release went live across every major business wire. By 9:30 it was trending on social media. By 10 o'clock, 3 major networks had picked it up for their business segments. I was in my office when David called. You're not going to believe this. Forbes just moved you up to number 47 on their real-time billionaires list. The stock jump from the announcement added another $800 million to your valuation. Sounds about right. The Wall Street Journal wants an exclusive interview. So do Bloomberg, CNBC, and about 15 others. Schedule them for next week. Your phone's about to explode. He wasn't wrong. By 10:30, I'd received texts from business school classmates I hadn't spoken to in years, former colleagues, industry contacts, and several venture capitalists who'd turned down the opportunity to invest in my company 7 years ago, when it was just an idea and a pitch deck. What I didn't receive, interestingly, was any communication from my family. At 11 o'clock, my assistant knocked on my office door. Your mother's calling. 4th time. I'm in meetings all day. That's what I told her. She said it's urgent. Everything's urgent to my mother. I'll call her tomorrow. By noon, the story had evolved beyond just the business pages. The human interest angle had taken hold. Single mother builds tech empire while raising daughter alone, stays completely anonymous for 7 years, reveals identity only after the company's successful IPO, values it at $12 billion. Several outlets had found my college graduation photo. Someone dug up an interview I'd done for a Women in Technology blog 5 years ago, where I'd talked about balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship without revealing my company name. My phone showed 63 missed calls from various family members. By 2 p.m. text messages flooded in. Marcus, is this real? Call me immediately. Jennifer, why didn't you tell us? Mom is losing her mind. Dad, we need to talk about this. Very concerning that you kept this from the family. Mom, 17 missed calls. No messages. Just calls. I silenced my phone and took Maya to her favorite ice cream place after school. We got triple scoops and walked through the park. She told me about her friend's new puppy and asked if we could volunteer at the animal shelter over Thanksgiving break. Absolutely, I said. We'll look up their schedule tonight. You're the best mom ever, she said, chocolate ice cream on her nose. My phone was still exploding when we got home. I left it in my bag and made dinner while Maya did her reading homework. We watched a documentary about penguins. I tucked her in at 8:30 and read 3 chapters of her current favorite book. Only then did I check my phone. 91 missed calls. 147 text messages. 32 voicemails. My mother had apparently discovered social media because there were also Instagram DMs, Facebook messages, and even a LinkedIn connection request from my brother. I listened to exactly 1 voicemail, the most recent one from my mother. I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but this is humiliating. Absolutely humiliating. Everyone is calling me, and I had no idea my own daughter was running some billion-dollar company. Thomas Henderson sent me an article asking if I was proud. Proud? I didn't even know. How dare you embarrass this family like this? Call me back immediately. We need to do damage control before Thanksgiving. I deleted it and went to bed. Thanksgiving morning arrived clear and cold. Maya and I slept in until 9, then made pancakes with chocolate chips and strawberries. She wanted to watch the parade, so we curled up on the couch under blankets while cartoon floats drifted across the screen. At 10 a.m. my doorbell rang. Through the security camera I could see my mother, father, Marcus, and Jennifer all crowded on my front porch. Mom was holding what appeared to be a flower arrangement. Dad had a bottle of wine. They looked nervous. I cracked the door open without removing the chain. Can I help you? Sweetheart, Mom started, her voice sugary sweet in a way I'd never heard before. We came to apologize and see if maybe you and Maya would like to come to Thanksgiving after all. We'd love to have you both. I thought rich people were coming. Wouldn't Maya disrupt the sophisticated atmosphere? Mom's smile flickered. I may have been hasty about that. Obviously we want our granddaughter there. It's a family holiday. What about the Hendersons and Montgomerys? Won't they mind a child running around? Actually, Marcus interjected, Thomas Henderson called this morning. He asked specifically if you were coming to dinner. Apparently he's been trying to get a meeting with you for months through proper channels. And Patricia Montgomery, Jennifer added quickly, sent Mom a message saying how excited she was to potentially meet you. She mentioned something about a board position. I looked at my mother. Her carefully applied makeup couldn't quite hide the desperation in her eyes. The flower arrangement trembled slightly in her hands. The thing is, I said conversationally, Maya and I already have plans. We're doing pizza and movies. Then we're going to volunteer at the animal shelter tomorrow. It's going to be a really special mother-daughter day. But the dinner, Mom started. The dinner you uninvited my daughter from because she wasn't impressive enough for your rich friends? That dinner. Silence. Here's what's interesting, I continued. You've known me for 34 years. You raised me. And somehow you never noticed that I was building something. You never asked about my work beyond whether it paid enough. You never wondered why I traveled so much or took calls at odd hours or spent every spare minute on my laptop. You never told us, Dad protested. You never asked. But that's not even the point. I crouched down to eye level with my mother. The point is that you looked at your only granddaughter and decided she wasn't good enough to be included in your celebration. Not because of anything she did. Just because she's 7 and might be inconvenient. We made a mistake, Mom whispered. Yes, you did. And now you're here because I'm suddenly useful. Because Thomas Henderson wants to meet me. Because having a billionaire daughter makes you look good at your fancy dinner party. Marcus cleared his throat. It's not just that. It's exactly that. If the news hadn't broken yesterday, you'd all be at your elegant 12-course meal right now, and Maya would be with a babysitter and you'd feel perfectly fine about it. Jennifer's eyes were wet. We're sorry. Really sorry. I believe you're sorry you got caught being shallow. I believe you're sorry you're embarrassed. I don't believe you're sorry about what you did to Maya. So you're not coming? Mom's voice cracked. No. We're not coming. Not this year. Not until you understand that Maya is worth 1,000 Thomas Hendersons, and I'm your daughter whether I'm a billionaire or broke. I started to close the door then paused. Oh, and Mom? You should probably know. Thomas Henderson is one of my investors. He owns about 4% of my company. So when you seat him at dinner tonight and he asks where I am, you can tell him exactly what you told me, that my daughter wasn't sophisticated enough for your party. I closed the door and locked it. Through the window I watched them stand there for a long moment. Mom was crying. Dad had his arm around her shoulders. Marcus and Jennifer looked shell-shocked. Eventually they turned and walked back to their car. Maya appeared in the hallway, still in her pajamas. Who was that? Nobody important, baby. Ready for pizza? Her face lit up. Can we get the one with 4 different cheeses? We can get whatever you want. Later that evening, after the pizza and the movies and the ice cream sundaes, after Maya had fallen asleep on the couch with her head in my lap, I finally opened my laptop. The news coverage had continued all day. My company's stock had jumped another 6%. 3 more interview requests waited in my inbox. And there, buried among the business inquiries, was an email from Thomas Henderson. Heard you skipped your family's Thanksgiving. Can't say I blame you after hearing the story. My grandkids and I are having pizza and watching movies too. The sophisticated dinner parties are overrated anyway. Call me next week if you want to grab coffee and talk about that board position Patricia mentioned. No pressure. Happy Thanksgiving. I smiled and closed the laptop. Outside, the first snow of the season had started to fall. Maya stirred in her sleep and I pulled the blanket higher around her shoulders. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Jennifer. For what it's worth, I think you're an amazing mom. And I'm sorry we made you feel like you had to choose. I typed back. I didn't have to choose. The choice was always obvious. Then I turned off my phone and watched the snow fall, my daughter sleeping peacefully beside me, surrounded by pizza boxes and the gentle glow of paused movie credits. In the morning we'd go to the animal shelter. Maybe we'd foster a dog. Maybe we'd start a new tradition, one where everyone was welcome regardless of their age or their net worth or their usefulness at networking dinners. But tonight we were exactly where we needed to be. Together. which was worth more than all the sophisticated Thanksgiving dinners and billion-dollar valuations in the world. Some people measure success in stock prices and board positions. I measured mine in chocolate chip pancakes and ice cream sundaes and the weight of my daughter's head on my lap as snow fell outside our window. And by that measure I was the richest person I knew. The community center parking lot was already half full when I pulled in at 11:30 a.m. The annual family reunion had been held every 4th of July weekend for the past 23 years. My son Jake sat in the back seat, carefully holding the potato salad I'd made at his insistence. "There's Uncle Mike's truck," he said, pointing. "And Aunt Lisa's van." I took a deep breath and checked my reflection in the rearview mirror. Presentable. Professional. Come. Ready, buddy? Ready. We walked across the parking lot together. Jake was 8 now, tall for his age with his father's dark hair and my stubborn chin. He'd been asking about this reunion for weeks, excited to see his cousins. I hadn't told him about the tensions, the whispered conversations, the way my mother's voice got tight whenever I called. The moment we walked through the door I knew it was a mistake. My mother stood near the registration table surrounded by my aunts. She saw us immediately. Her expression shifted from pleasant hostess to something cold and pinched. "Look who's disrupting the peace again," she announced loudly enough for the entire room to hear. Conversations stopped. Heads turned. My cousin Sarah, who'd been laughing at something, went quiet. Uncle Mike, flipping burgers at the grill station, paused mid-flip. Even the kids playing in the corner seemed to sense the shift in atmosphere. Everyone turned away. Not dramatically, not obviously, but the message was clear. Back straightened. Conversations resumed in quieter tones. People suddenly found reasons to be on the opposite side of the room. Jake's hand tightened around mine. "Are we bad, Mommy?" His voice was small, confused. That question broke something in me. Not anger, not hurt exactly, just a sudden clarity about what I was willing to accept and what I wasn't. "No, baby. We're not bad at all." I squeezed his hand. "Let's go." "But the potato salad. We'll have it for dinner tonight. Just you and me." We walked back to the car in silence. Jake didn't cry, but I could see him processing it, trying to understand why Grandma had said that, why everyone had turned away. I didn't have a good answer that wouldn't make him feel worse. On the drive home he finally asked, "Why doesn't Grandma like us?" I chose my words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements. It's not about you. You didn't do anything wrong." "But she said we disrupt the peace." "I know. But that's not true." What I didn't tell him was the full story. How after his father left when Jake was 2, my mother had been furious that I'd refused to chase him down for child support. How she'd called me prideful and stupid for not securing my financial future. How every family gathering since had included pointed comments about my choices, my job, my situation. The disruption she referred to wasn't really about peace. It was about the fact that I'd stopped playing along with the family narrative. I'd stopped pretending everything was fine. I'd stopped making myself small to make everyone else comfortable. At home, Jake and I ate potato salad and hot dogs on the back porch. We watched fireworks from the neighborhood display. He fell asleep early, exhausted from the emotional weight of the day. I sat on the couch with my laptop staring at my email inbox. There was one message I'd been avoiding for 3 days. The subject line read, "Palmer Property Holdings, Quarterly Report." I opened it and read through the numbers. 23 residential properties across the city. Occupancy rate at 96%. Rental income steady. Property values up 8% from last quarter. My property manager, Susan, had attached a note. "The Riverside apartment complex is performing exceptionally well. Your mother's unit is in the building, flagged for renovation next year. Should I send the standard notice, or do you want to handle that communication personally?" I stared at that line for a long time. My mother lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in the Riverside complex. She had for the past 11 years, ever since she and Dad divorced and she downsized from their house. She paid $1,200 a month, which was roughly 40% below market rate for that area. She didn't know I owned the building. She didn't know I owned any buildings. What she knew was that I worked in property management, which she'd always said with a slight sneer as if I were a glorified janitor. She knew I worked long hours. She knew I'd somehow managed to buy a decent house in a good school district on a property manager's salary, which she found suspicious and probably irresponsible. What she didn't know was that I'd started buying distressed properties 8 years ago, during the market crash. Small apartment buildings, foreclosures. Nothing fancy. I'd renovated them slowly, carefully, learning as I went. I'd reinvested every profit, built a portfolio, created something sustainable. I'd kept it quiet because the moment my family knew I had money, everything would change. They'd want loans they'd never repay. They'd have opinions about my investments. They'd find ways to make it about them. But more than that, I'd kept it quiet because I wanted to build something that was mine. Something I'd done myself without family input or interference or judgment. Now, sitting in my living room with the memory of my son's hurt face fresh in my mind, I realized the cost of that privacy. I typed a response to Susan. Send standard notice to all units, including my mother's. No special treatment. And Susan, starting next month, adjust her rent to market rate. Current tenant rate is $1,200. Market rate for that unit is $2,100. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The next morning was Saturday. I took Jake to the farmer's market, then to the movies. We had ice cream. We went to the park. I didn't check my phone until we got home at 4 o'clock. 17 missed calls from my mother. 9 from Aunt Patricia. 5 from Cousin Sarah. A flood of text messages. I listened to the first voicemail from my mother. I received the most outrageous notice from my landlord today. They're raising my rent to $2,100. That's almost double. This is criminal. I need you to help me find a new place immediately. Call me back. The second voicemail 2 hours later. Why aren't you answering? This is serious. I can't afford $2,100 a month. I'm on a fixed income. Your aunt says there are laws against this kind of increase. Call me. The third voicemail, angrier. I don't appreciate being ignored. After everything I've done for you, the least you could do is help me in a crisis. Patricia says you know people in property management. I need names. Numbers. Something. I didn't call back. On Sunday my phone rang at 8 a.m. My mother again. I let it go to voicemail. Then Aunt Patricia called. Your mother is beside herself, Patricia said when I finally answered. She got this insane rent increase notice. The landlord is being completely unreasonable. We need your help. You work in property management, don't you? Can you talk to them? Who's the landlord? I asked calmly. Some company. Palmer Property Holdings. Sounds like one of those corporate vultures. Can you reach out to them? See if they'll be reasonable. Palmer was my middle name. My company was registered under my maiden name, which I'd kept for business purposes. I can reach out, I said. But, Patricia, market rate for that area is actually around $2,100. The current rent was significantly below market. That doesn't matter. She's lived there for 11 years. They can't just. They can actually. It's legal with proper notice. Silence. Then, I thought you'd help family. I am helping. I'm telling you the truth about the market. She hung up. By Monday the story had evolved. My mother had apparently been telling everyone that I'd refused to help her, that I was being cold and unhelpful in her time of crisis. The family group chat, which I'd muted months ago, was full of messages about my selfishness. On Tuesday morning I received a call from Susan. Your mother came to the property office yesterday demanding to speak to the owner. I told her the owner doesn't take meetings. All communication goes through me. He was quite upset. She's threatening to organize other tenants. Says the increase is predatory. Let me know if she continues to be disruptive. Document everything. There's something else. She's applied for 3 other apartments in the area. All of them are your properties. She doesn't realize it because they're managed under different business names. I hadn't planned that. It was pure coincidence that the affordable apartments in her desired area happened to be in my portfolio. Process her applications normally, I said. Credit check, references, standard procedure. Her credit score is below our usual threshold. Of course it was. My mother had always been impulsive with money, emotional with spending. It was one of the reasons she and Dad had divorced. Then decline the applications. Normal business practice. That evening my mother showed up at my house. I watched through the door camera as she rang the bell repeatedly, then started pounding on the door. Jake was doing homework at the kitchen table. Who is it? He asked. Nobody important. I said, not moving from where I stood. My mother's voice came through the door. I know you're in there. Open this door. We need to talk about this apartment situation. You have connections and you're refusing to help me. Your own mother. Jake's eyes went wide. That's Grandma. Yeah. Are you going to let her in? I looked at my son, thought about him asking if we were bad people, thought about the way my mother had humiliated us in front of the entire family. No, I said. I'm not. My mother shouted through the door for another 5 minutes before finally leaving. Jake watched me the entire time, processing this new dynamic where his mom didn't automatically defer to Grandma's demands. You can say no to grown-ups? He asked quietly. When they're being unreasonable or unkind, yes. You can. He thought about this. Even to family? Especially to family. Family doesn't get to treat you badly just because they're family. On Wednesday, Aunt Patricia called again. Your mother's moving in with me temporarily. She can't find an affordable apartment anywhere. Every place either won't accept her application or is charging outrageous rent. I thought you were going to help. I told you the market rates. That was helping. That's not she's family. She needs you. She needed me to be her punching bag. That's different from actually needing help. What's that supposed to mean? I took a breath. It means I'm tired of being treated like a problem. Like a disruption. Like I'm doing something wrong by existing and making my own choices. This is about the reunion, isn't it? He was just stressed. She didn't mean. She meant every word. He always means it. And I'm done pretending it doesn't matter. So you're going to let your mother be homeless? Over one comment. My mother isn't homeless. She's staying with you. And it wasn't one comment. It's been years of comments. Years of being told I'm not enough, that I'm doing it wrong, that I'm disrupting everyone's peace by not being whatever she wants me to be. Patricia was quiet for a moment. There's more to this, isn't there? Something you're not saying. I almost told her then. Almost explained that I owned the buildings, that I'd built something substantial, that I could help my mother but chose not to, because help wasn't what she actually wanted. Instead I said, I have to go. Jake has a soccer game. On Thursday, I received an email from Susan. Your mother's application for the Riverside unit renewal has been processed. Given the new market rate rent and her credit score, the application has been declined. She has 60 days to vacate per the original notice. Let me know if you need anything else. I forwarded the email to my lawyer and asked her to review everything to ensure we were following all legal requirements. She confirmed we were. Everything was by the book. Friday afternoon, my mother called from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. You need to tell me who owns Palmer Property Holdings, she said without preamble. I have a right to know who's displacing me. My heart pounded. Why? Because I'm going to file a complaint. This is elder abuse. Predatory rental practices. I've been researching and there are protections. Mom, you're 62. That's not elderly by legal standards. And market rate rent isn't predatory. How would you know? You're just a property manager. You probably work for companies that do exactly this kind of thing, displace long-term tenants for profit. The irony was so thick I almost laughed. Yeah. I probably do. Can you help me or not? I looked out the window. Jake was in the backyard practicing soccer drills. Happy, adjusted, secure. We'd built a good life. A peaceful life. No, I said. I can't help you. Then you're no daughter of mine. She hung up. I should have felt something, grief, guilt, anger. Instead I felt relief. Clear, simple relief. That evening I sat Jake down. Grandma and I are going through a difficult time right now. We probably won't see her for a while. Because we disrupt peace? Because peace isn't about being quiet and letting people treat you badly. Real peace is about respect. And Grandma hasn't been respectful to us. He nodded slowly. Will she ever be respectful? I don't know, buddy. Maybe. But until she is, we're going to protect our peace. Just you and me. I like our peace, he said. Me too. Later, after Jake was asleep, I opened my laptop and looked at the property portfolio again. 23 buildings. Hundreds of tenants. A business I'd built from nothing, through careful planning, hard work, and calculated risks. My mother would probably never know I owned the building she was being evicted from. She'd move in with Patricia, complain about her ungrateful daughter who worked in property management and refused to help in a crisis, never realizing the help she wanted wasn't actually help at all. And that was fine. Some people spend their whole lives trying to prove themselves to family members who will never see them clearly. I'd spent 8 years building something that didn't require anyone's approval but my own. In the morning, Susan sent another email. Just wanted to confirm, you're okay with the 60-day notice standing? No family exceptions. I typed back, no exceptions. Business is business. Then I closed my laptop and went to watch Jake's soccer practice, where nobody questioned my worth, my choices, or my right to exist peacefully in my own life. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop playing a game you were never meant to win. The wrapping paper hadn't even hit the floor before my nephew Tyler grabbed it and dunked it into the garbage can. He was 12, wearing a designer hoodie that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Bargain gifts go in the trash, Tyler announced to the room full of relatives. My daughter Emma stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. She'd spent an hour picking out that science kit, adding $5 from her own allowance. My brother Marcus laughed from the leather sectional. That's my boy. Teaching him standards early. His wife Jennifer nodded. We don't do discount store gifts in this family. I felt Emma's hand slip into mine, trembling. Instead of defending her, I squeezed her hand gently and stayed quiet. Come on, sweetie, I said softly. Let's go get some cake. As we walked away, Marcus Stage whispered to our mother, it's embarrassing watching her try to keep up. Mom's response was quiet. She made her choices. Marrying a teacher instead of someone with real money. The party continued. Tyler opened expensive gifts one after another. A new gaming laptop worth $2,000, a professional skateboard, limited edition sneakers. He tossed the cards aside without reading them, already reaching for the next box. My sister Lauren arrived late, making a dramatic entrance. Sorry. The dealership took forever detailing the new Range Rover. Which color? Jennifer asked immediately. Arctic white with the black trim package. Marcus, it makes your BMW look almost ordinary. My brother stood defensive. The M5 is a performance vehicle. $45,000 difference though, Lauren shot back with a smile. I stayed in the kitchen with Emma, who'd gone quiet the way she did when things hurt. Mom, she whispered. Why was my gift wrong? It wasn't wrong, baby. Some people forget what matters. Marcus grabbed a beer from the fridge. Still here? Must be tough watching everyone else live well. He glanced at Emma. Kid, don't settle like your mom did. Marry someone who can actually provide. After they left, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. 3 clicks stopped the automatic transfer that had been running for 4 years. The transfer that paid for Marcus's BMW. We left early. Emma fell asleep in the car, her face pressed against the window. I drove past the dealership where Lauren's Range Rover probably sat, then past the gated community where Marcus's house stood with its 3-car garage. All of it built on money they thought they'd earned. The next morning started normally. I made breakfast, got Emma ready for school, and kissed my husband, David, goodbye as he left for the high school where he taught chemistry. Our small house felt warm and real in a way Marcus's showplace never did. My phone rang at 9:15. We need to talk. Now. Marcus's voice had an edge I'd never heard. I'm working. They're trying to take my car. The payments stopped. But that's impossible because... His voice trailed off. In the silence, I could hear him connecting the dots. Wait. You've been making my car payments. For 4 years. $3,200 a month. The silence stretched so long I checked to see if the call had dropped. That's over $150,000. His voice had gone hollow. $153,600. But who's counting? Why would you? Dad asked me before he died. He said you'd made bad investments and needed help. Said it was temporary. That was 4 years ago. Dad knew. Dad arranged the transfer from my account to your loan. You thought it was from his estate trust. The trust ran out 6 months after he died. I know. I've been paying from my salary since then. Pause. But you live in that tiny house. Emma goes to public school. You drive a 10-year-old sedan. Yep. Jennifer's Mercedes. Is that $1,400 a month for 3 years? What else? Your house payment. $2,800 monthly. HOA fees. Tyler's private school. How much total? I pulled up my spreadsheet. Just over $400,000. He made a sound that wasn't quite a word. Yesterday, Tyler threw my daughter's gift in the trash. You laughed. So I stopped the transfers. All of them. You can't just, we'll lose everything. Bargain gift. That's what Tyler called it. A $40 science kit my daughter saved 3 weeks to buy. I'll talk to him. He didn't mean. He meant it. You taught him to. My second line beeped. Lauren. What did you do? The bank called about my Range Rover. I closed the account. Why would my payment come from your account? Dad asked me to help when you lost your job 3 years ago. I've been covering your car and country club. $2,300 monthly. $82,800 total. Her breathing stopped. You mocked my car yesterday. The car I paid for yours with. I didn't know. Because you assumed you'd earned it. Too busy mocking bargain shoppers to notice who was funding your life. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Mom knows. She's calling you. Right on cue, Mom's call came through. Is it true? She demanded. Have you been supporting your brother and sister? Yes. For how long? 4 years for Marcus. 3 for Lauren. Why didn't you tell me? Because Dad asked me not to. He said Marcus and Lauren needed to believe they were successful on their own. That knowing would hurt their pride. So you've been living in that cramped house, driving that old car while they called my daughter's gift trash. While they mocked my husband's teaching salary. While they made jokes about us being the poor relatives at every family gathering. Mom went quiet for a moment. What do you need from me? Nothing. I'm done needing things from this family. I meant, what do you need to start the payments again? You think this is a negotiation? Everything's a negotiation, sweetheart. You want an apology? You'll get one. You want them to treat you better? I'll make sure of it. Mom, I want my daughter to grow up knowing her worth isn't measured in designer labels. I want her to understand that being kind matters more than being comfortable. And I want her to never ever treat someone the way your grandson treated her yesterday. So this is about Emma? This is about Emma watching her gift get thrown in the trash and learning that's acceptable. This is about her hearing her uncle call her father a failure. This is about $483,000 that I could have used for her college fund, or a bigger house, or literally anything except subsidizing people who despise us. The number hung in the air between us. $400, Mom's voice faded. $483,600. Give or take a few hundred for interest I didn't charge. I heard her sink down. Your father never told me the amounts. He never told them either. Marcus and Lauren think their success is self-made. They have no idea they've been living on my teacher wife's salary while insulting it. My email pinged. The dealership had sent Marcus's account to collections. Another ping. The bank had started foreclosure proceedings on his house. A third ping. Tyler's private school wanted to discuss the tuition situation. The consequences are starting, I told Mom. Marcus's car will be repossessed by the end of the day. His house payment is 60 days past due as of this morning. Lauren's Range Rover has a repo order. Tyler's school wants payment for this semester. You set this up to all collapse at once. I stopped paying my bills all at once. Their collapse is their problem. My doorbell rang. Through the window I could see Marcus's BMW in my driveway and Marcus himself at my door. Jennifer sat in the passenger seat staring straight ahead. They're at my house, Mom. I have to go. Fix this, she said. Family doesn't abandon family. You're right. Family doesn't. But I'm the one who didn't abandon anyone, remember? I'm the one who paid and paid and paid while being treated like trash. I hung up and opened the door. Marcus looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. The repo truck is following me. They gave me an hour to bring the car to you. They said the loan is in your name. It is. Dad didn't trust you to make the payments, so he put it in my name with you as the authorized driver. So legally it's my car. You've just been borrowing it. Jennifer got out and walked up, her designer heels clicking on my concrete path. We'll set up payments. Whatever you want. Can you afford $4,600 a month? That's just the car and the house. It doesn't include Tyler's school or your Mercedes. Her face went white. That's more than Marcus makes. I know. I've been covering the difference for 4 years. Marcus grabbed the doorframe. How? How did you afford this? I'm a senior financial analyst. I make $190,000 a year. David makes $85,000 as a department head. We live below our means. We save. We budget. We don't buy 12-year-olds $1,000 laptops. But you live in this tiny house. Because we chose to. Because we wanted Emma to learn that happiness doesn't come from things. Because we wanted to actually retire someday instead of drowning in car payments. The repo truck pulled up to my curb. Please, Marcus said. One more month. Let me figure something out. I looked past him to where Emma's bike sat in the garage, next to the inflatable kiddie pool we'd bought on sale. Our small, happy life. Yesterday your son threw my daughter's gift in the garbage. You laughed. Today you're begging. That's not growth, Marcus. That's just consequences. The repo driver approached with a clipboard. I need the keys to the BMW and the Mercedes. Jennifer's face crumpled. Not my car too? I looked at her. Yesterday at the party, what did you say about our grocery store cake? She stared at the ground. You said it tasted like we'd scraped it off the discount shelf. You said you couldn't believe I'd serve that to children. I stepped aside so the repo driver could get through. That cake cost $18. Your car payment, which I've been making, $16,800 total. You insulted a cake that cost $18 while I paid for your luxury vehicle. So yes, your car too. The repo driver waited patiently. Marcus handed over both sets of keys with shaking hands. What are we supposed to drive? Jennifer whispered. The same thing we do, I said. A used car with reasonable payments that you can actually afford. As the truck loaded both vehicles, neighbors started coming out. Marcus and Jennifer stood in my driveway watching their status symbols disappear onto the flatbed. Mom's car pulled up just as the repo truck left. She got out slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen her. I called Lauren, she said. Her car's already gone. Her husband found out about the debt. He's talking to a lawyer. That's between them. Your father would be devastated. Dad created this mess. He taught them to live beyond their means and then made me the safety net without telling me it was permanent. He was trying to help. He was enabling. There's a difference. I started to close the door. I have to get back to work. I have actual bills to pay. My own bills. What do they do now? What everyone does. They figure it out. They make real budgets. They live within their actual means. They get jobs that cover their lifestyle or they change their lifestyle. You know, like adults. Marcus and Jennifer were still standing in the driveway looking lost. Marcus, I called out. Tyler's science kit, the one he threw away? It teaches about renewable energy and comes with a solar panel experiment. Emma wanted him to have it because he told her last month he was interested in environmental science. He remembered. He cared. She spent her allowance. His eyes filled with tears. That's what bargain gifts look like when they come from love instead of obligation. You should teach him the difference before he grows up to be like you. I closed the door and went back to my computer. My email had 17 new messages. Marcus copying me on frantic emails to the bank, Lauren's desperate voicemails, Jennifer's texts promising anything if I'd just help one more time. I deleted them all and opened the college savings calculator instead. $483,600. If I'd put that into Emma's education fund instead, she could go to any university in the country. Full ride. No loans. But I'd spent it on people who threw her gifts in the trash. Not anymore. My phone rang again. This time it was Tyler calling from Marcus's phone. Aunt Sarah. His voice was small, nothing like yesterday's arrogance. Yes, Tyler. Dad said he said you paid for everything. Our house and my school and everything. I did. Because of Grandpa? Because your dad needed help and I wanted to be there for family. A long pause. I'm sorry about the gift. And what I said. I didn't know. Would it have mattered if you did know? Would you have been kinder to Emma if you'd known I was rich? He didn't answer right away. I don't know. Maybe. That's the problem, Tyler. Kindness shouldn't depend on someone's bank account. Emma picked that gift because she loves science and she thought you did too. She wanted to share something she enjoyed with you. That's what gifts are supposed to be. Dad's crying. I've never seen him cry before. Sometimes people need to cry. Sometimes that's how we learn. Are we going to lose our house? I don't know. That's up to your parents now. I really am sorry. I'll tell Emma. I'll tell her the gift was actually really cool and I was being a jerk. That would be nice. She'd like that. After he hung up, I sat for a long time looking at family photos on the wall. There was one from 5 years ago before Dad died. Before the payments started. Everyone was smiling, genuine and warm. We could never get back to that moment. But maybe, just maybe, we could find our way to something real. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Emma's school. Emma told her class today that kindness is the most expensive gift because it costs nothing but people forget to give it. Her teacher wanted to share that with you. I smiled and got back to work. The world didn't end because I stopped paying other people's bills. The sun still rose. Emma still laughed. David still brought me coffee in bed. And somewhere across town my brother was learning what his life actually cost. Maybe that was the real gift all along.